Hello and welcome. Google says they'll begin honoring search listing removal requests from victims of revenge porn. Mixed reviews from commercial tenants being forced to move out so new owner Google can use the space for expansion in Mountain View. A touchy subject there. Interesting story. Several announcements from tech companies looking to improve their news offerings as more and more people continue to discover and read news in non-traditional ways. In partnership with Storyful, Google launched YouTube Newswire to verify eyewitness videos. Twitter will begin curating tweets about live events and breaking news with a product called Project Lightning. And Apple is hiring news editors for its upcoming Apple News app, similar to Flipboard, that will ship with iOS 9, the newest version of their mobile operating system. Google has added several ways to visualize and analyze data on the web version of their cloud-based spreadsheet app called Sheets. Digital rights advocate Electronic Frontier Foundation has a chart listing how well various tech companies handle government requests for user data and content removal requests. Those stories and more are coming up on tonight's Google Plus Week. Welcome, Alan Furstenberg in New York. We have you till 9:10, so we probably will do a quick show tonight.
I think it'll take you longer than that to read the headlines of all those stories again.
Okay. All right. So, excuse me. So the first thing is, I revenge porn is fairly new, right? And I think one of the guys got in trouble or sued or criminally charged, but basically, and there was in the HBO series The Newsroom, there was a story in the storyline. There was an episode, but basically, it's often females who are the victims, and it's an ex-boyfriend or whoever takes photos or videos and posts them in purely to troll, to upset their ex. And so that's just called revenge porn. And so now what is Google doing, Alan?
Well, it sounds like what Google has said they're going to be doing is providing a way for victims of revenge porn to request that the information be de-indexed. So this is a very, very narrow case where Google will be allowing people to remove content that isn't on their own site, but is about them. It's inherently and obviously about them. And in fact, that's kind of the entire reason why Google has anything resembling a leg to stand on to remove it in this case.
They've gone to bat for things in the past to refuse to remove things. The Muslim video that was controversial, or anti-Muhammad video was. How is this different? Other
That's a
than
really that's a really good question. I think the better question is, how does this differ from the right to be forgotten, which is ruling out of Europe? And I don't know. I've seen some people make it very clear. In fact, I was hoping we would have more people on the show tonight so we could actually debate this. I think this is a case, though, where Google is saying, look, it's not, and this is something they've always said, it's that you have a right to your own information, to your own images, to things that are very personal about you. You don't have a right to public information about you. And that's kind of where the dividing line is. Here, Google is saying, look, this is not, these are your pictures. These are pictures of you. And somehow you lost control, you don't have full control over them, and you should. And here is where they're trying to put that full control back in.
To clarify this, they're referring to this as revenge porn. Even Google is. But is it limited to that, or could it simply be I did something dumb when I was young and filmed something, and now I want to scrub it?
Google has said that this is very, very narrowly focused. This is about pornographic images of you
That you didn't want posted, or
well, if you wanted them posted, you wouldn't be asking to take them down.
well, you could have been a porn star when you were 19 and signed a contract and did it, and now you're
You don't have the
30,
rights,
and you know what I
but
mean?
you don't have the rights to that image anymore.
Right.
The point is that these are images that you, at least I think the legal leg they have to stand on is these are images of you which maybe were taken with your consent but are now being used without your consent.
Well, but we got into the obviously we're both for this, but just to get into to debate the legalities of it or the intricacies, we saw the court say that the baboon that picked the guy's camera up and took a picture actually owned the copyright of the photograph of himself, his selfie, and that the guy couldn't sue people for posting a picture that he didn't own because the baboon took the picture. Whoever pulls the shutter owns the rights, so they're not your property if someone else took them, right?
That's not always well, except for the fact that we've got some pretty clear precedent when it comes to images of people.
And of course, you get into the reasonable expectation of privacy for a private individual versus a small town mayor versus a congressman versus the president versus Madonna, right? So they're varying. You can get away with saying things about Barack Obama or Madonna. You couldn't get away with saying about you.
Yeah, but could you post nude pictures of Barack Obama?
I'm sure if you could, they would. Next to ads for storable foods and guns. But anyway, so, and again, I'm not at all for revenge porn, and I support them taking this out of the listing, I guess, but it's an interesting ethical debate. Okay, so another interesting debate was, and it wasn't foaming at the mouth tenants, but in a section of Mountain View, there's sort of, like you see outside the town, on the outskirts of town, there'll be like these industrial parks, and you might have the electric company might have a warehouse there, the phone company, in this case, the guy who repairs Corvettes, maybe a sign shop would be there. Not high traffic retail that you'd expect to see on a main street, but sort of, mini industrial type things, workshops and such. And so Google bought the building some years ago and wasn't renewing leases, keeping people month to month, and so they knew the end was coming, and so now they've said that they are going to take over the property, and we've seen a mixed bag of results from the tenants. I think this happens all the time. So property owners can buy a big building, and it was offered for sale, and Google bought it. So on the one hand, it's only a story because Google is involved. As far as being a non-local story, it's only because of Google, in the same way that McDonald's became a target for what they pay their labor force, and Walmart, same thing, because they're big targets that will get news coverage when really they're probably both paying the same as some independently owned mom and pop shop. But if you want news coverage, you go after the big guys. So there's that side of it. There's also this is part of the general, although it's a different city in San Francisco, we're seeing a lot of pushback and a lot of frustration on the part of local residents about the expansion of these big tech companies. So how do you, what are your thoughts on this story and the general, what do you do when a giant company lands in your quaint little town? And couldn't this happen anywhere?
Yeah, no, it's a real problem. I mean, I've talked to friends in the valley, and one of their concerns is that as some of the big tech companies continue to grow, they're encroaching on established residential communities, established businesses, and they know that although Google is not a bad neighbor, um, they're also a very hungry neighbor, and that leads to problems. And I don't think there are any good solutions here. I mean, there's no good solutions here, and neither side is really in the wrong. This is why you've got leases. This is why leases sometimes expire. Um, that's unfortunate in a lot of ways, but we see this sort of thing happening in Manhattan as well, with different tenants that are the ones that are trying to push out the locals, and it's a problem, and there's no good solution.
Yep. Okay. Okay. So, by the way, I've got a behind the scenes thing on Periscope. I'm doing the streaming setup here. I don't really know how to use it, but it's streaming, and I think there's 4 people watching. So, if you have a comment, I may see it. I don't know, but I will try.
That may
Brad,
be like 4 times the number of people who are watching the show.
I don't know, but Brad says hi from techwebcast.info, number one tech show in Australia, worldwide from Australia. So, okay, so next we're seeing these tech companies really just coincidentally this week, but a number of announcements about folks upping the game socially. And one is, we can combine these into one thing, Storyful, which is owned by News Corp, the company that owns Fox News Channel, the Fox TV network, and then they spun off the newspaper side. Storyful is a company that tries to verify content created by just Joe on the scene and posts it, and they try to figure out, is this legit? So news organizations can say this is an eyewitness video or a photograph. The guy who was live tweeting the Bin Laden raid, they probably try to check him out and see if that guy really did live there and those were legit. And that's Storyful. So they've launched YouTube Newswire, and they have a Twitter feed and a YouTube channel, and they try to verify eyewitness videos and also just legit videos. Like, for example, the story, this awful story in South Carolina, they've got the videotape of the kids, of the young man's court hearing from the county. So it's just a way to find the original legit content that's video. Also, Twitter is going to start curating tweets about live events and breaking news with a project called Project Lightning. So it could be anything they describe as the red carpet from a big award show or to a breaking news event. And they're going to, before you could say, I want to see the best of, like the most retweeted things about this, hashtag, the Emmys, or you could say just from people I follow, or I could see the live stream, but then you get a bunch of garbage. So what they're going to try to do is mix the best and have actual editors curating it so that it's a more friendly news consumption experience for the user. And also Apple's hiring new news editors for its upcoming Apple News app, and they've listed jobs for people who have like experience in journalism to curate news. So their app will be more like Yahoo News, which is curated by human beings, as opposed to Google News, which is algorithmically based, unless something's changed of late. And the final thing on this, and then I'll throw it to Alan, is that Twitter and Google Plus have said that it's a general consensus that they both had a problem with discovery. People have checked out Twitter, and if they didn't find their friends or follow the right people, they didn't see anything going on, they got bored and they stopped using it. Same thing with Google Plus. All those people in July of 2011 who logged in, they didn't see their friends, they were expecting a Facebook type experience, and if they didn't hang around and spend time using it, then they didn't get a very good experience. And a lot of them just didn't see what they thought should be there, and they didn't come back. So, and Twitter and Google Plus, I think, probably have similar levels of engagement worldwide. So, Alan, you want to roll with that?
I mean, a lot of that's all pretty obvious. It seems clear that everyone has seen how well Twitter has done, but the massive problems that it has, and they're all trying to address it in roughly the same way. And that roughly the same way is get a human being to do it, since the algorithms are apparently not working out so well. This seems to be a recurring theme. I mean, Apple said that about its music service, that it's going to be human curated. Google, I fully expect within the next few weeks or months to talk about how they're going to be, that Google Plus will be transforming into a topic and interest-based solution. I think everyone's going after the same sort of thing, and there are only a limited number of different ways that they can do that.
What does it bode for legacy media, your local ABC affiliate, your local community newspaper, your local radio station?
I'm not sure I can really comment on that.
Okay. Oh yeah, you can't. I could, but you'd know what I'd say. Okay, so next.
Well, that's because you are old media.
I am. I'm a captain of a dying industry. Okay, Google has we have 14 minutes of Alan left. Google's added new ways to visualize and analyze data on the web version of their cloud-based spreadsheet app called Sheets. So this is still the most full-featured on almost everything is on the desktop or the laptop versus the your iPhone or your Android phone. So I have not played with this. Have you? And how is this helpful? And what do you think?
I've only played briefly with this. What this does is it adds some additional visualization tools, which is one of the great things about Sheets. It adds some additional functions, adds some additional basic editing capabilities. It's all pretty good. It's basically, step by step, making Sheets a better product. And it's a great product right now. But one of the things that we've seen is Google, in trying to go after various segments, um, it seems to have it went after hard the education sector with docs and sheets, and now it looks like they're trying to leverage these tools to make more of a wedge in business, and that's where the money is. So it's no surprise.
Yeah, I agree, and we're going to see more and more people. They continue the. I think even our websites, and like Facebook, I think most people we're well over half for consumption of news being on mobile devices now, right? I think that's what I've heard. Maybe like 60%. 60% of
That's my
Facebook's traffic, everything is like between 50 and 65% for any kind of activity. Um, I would guess. So definitely, the days of having a crappy site that just barely works on a phone, um, unless you have a really, even older folks are using mobile more. So, okay, next is the Electronic Frontier Foundation has a chart listing how well various tech employees, companies handle government requests for user data and how they handle content removal. A lot of this gets to transparency, letting folks know, and I was surprised that Google was, I think, out of 5 categories, they were good on 3 of them, or 4 out of 6, whatever, but 2 they weren't.
It was
And
3 out of 5.
some other companies like Adobe was 5 out of 5, but and I think Apple was 5 out of 5. WhatsApp fared poorly. So what's your takeaway from this?
WhatsApp got a 1 out of 5. In fact, it had some very basic things that it failed to do. It's interesting. We've reported on this a few times now. EFF has released this in the past, and one of the things to EFF's credit is this is not a static list. In the past, if I remember correctly, and I forgot to look this up, Google, I believe, scored 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 5. But everyone is doing better. Everyone is doing many of those things. So those 5 previous stars, I believe 3 or 4 of them, all got rolled into just 1 star, and that was best industry practice. And most of the companies are following best industry practice at this point, to everyone's great credit. WhatsApp being an exception. But EFF is up the game, and they've made it. They're now holding companies to a higher standard about when they notify people if government action is served against their accounts, how they notify them, what other actions they take, and how they defend their users. And so, although Google is doing reasonably well with its 3 out of 5, EFF felt that they could be doing better. They felt Facebook could be doing better. They felt Apple got all 5 out of 5, to Apple's great credit. Although, interestingly, this doesn't touch on most of the issues that Apple is raising when it comes to security. Other companies like, Verizon, Comcast, scored very poorly, which is no surprise either. So kudos to the EFF for holding the tech industry's feet to the fire. I look forward to seeing what the next report reveals.
Okay, another story I saw, and this is on Flipboard. This isn't on the main list I had, but Imax tried to censor Ars Technica, and what they did was they wrote an article about a virtual reality thing, and they compared it. They said it was similar to an IMAX theater experience or something like that. They made some reference to an IMAX theater. So IMAX,
I believe the exact phrase they used was, "It's like an IMAX theater in your living room."
it was not at all trolling IMAX. It was, using them as an example of something cool.
Right.
And so IMAX sent a letter demanding that they retract the reference to their trademark name IMAX, and correcting them that it wasn't anything like that. And it was just absurd that they could say, if you did a story saying that this
Well,
is,
did you see the follow up, Dan? There's been a follow up to that story.
which, okay, what was that?
Posted on ours. Ours has said that IMAX has retracted their previous statement and sent an IMAX sized apology to Ars Technica and to their readers for their overreaction.
Excellent.
and IMAX admitted they were in the wrong in this case. They apologized for being overzealous in defending their trademark, and they admitted that they were overzealous in defending their trademark.
It wasn't quite as entertaining as the Subway footlong fail, but it was. I mean, I was like, what the hell? The other thing is, I see the IMAX. There's a controversy over what is an IMAX and what isn't. In other words, there used to be these giant screens, and now they keep licensing the name and the experience on smaller and smaller screens. And there's really no. This was a story like in 2011, 2012 or something, and some people had some lists of which were the big. If you're expecting this gigantic, like you saw when you were a kid and you saw the dinosaur thing at the museum, is there any way to find out? I guess you could call the theater. But like, if I wanted to see Jurassic World, I'd like to see that. Consider that going to an IMAX. Do I want to go to Dulles or, I don't know where I
I,
can
I,
find a real big one.
I believe there are different terms that they use for each one, and I have no idea what the terms are, nor do I really care.
Okay. Have you seen the movie? Do you plan on it?
Which one?
Jurassic World, the new Jurassic Park movie.
Oh, yeah,
Man,
maybe.
you're no fun.
I don't know. It looks kind of boring.
I've heard it's awesome.
I mean, sure, it's inaccurately portrayed dinosaurs. And other than
Oh,
that,
even
okay.
the guy, it was funny that the Washington Post interviewed some what are they called? Not paleontologists.
Paleontologists.
I finally got something right. And they said it was a really funny interview because they said, "Oh, it's a riot, it's a scream." They're obviously, they should have feathers, but I don't think they discovered the dinosaurs with feathers until the mid '90s, and Jurassic Park was '93. So,
Right. They didn't.
and,
So, I can hardly blame them for being inaccurate, but that's life.
but it was funny because they said like some of the stuff that the loud, and they want like, the Tyrannosaurus Rex, and the as it walks, it famously a glass of water shook in the SUV, and as the Tyrannosaurus Rex, and the paleontologists thought that was just a riot because they said predators don't announce their, I'm coming to eat you, boom boom bang bang, they're quiet usually. That's how they'd be really skinny predators. And just as an aside, the way Steven Spielberg did the water shaking in the SUV as a T-Rex approached was he turned the subwoofer up in the car, and boom, boom. That's how they actually did that, or they did some sort of similar thing. And then finally, you got to go in like 5 minutes, but I'm seeing Amazon experiments with citizen deliveries. In its ceaseless quest to speed delivery, Amazon wants to turn the U.S. into a nation of couriers. I'm seeing some friends of mine say that they're getting ready to go become an Uber driver in Northern Virginia. Apparently, you can make $30, $40 an hour after you pay for your gas. And I'm just seeing one of my newspaper delivery guys is considering doing that part time. I'm seeing more and more of this, of people, of these different applications, not just Uber and Lyft, but we see Airbnb and a lot of pushback from the legacy incumbents. And we've talked about this multiple times, but do you see it? Any thoughts on this? I just think it's fascinating. The thought you don't have to go to
Well,
an expensive hotel district. You can just rent somebody's loft, and the Uber thing
con-
and all
well,
this.
consider also the ruling that we just got from the California courts, I believe it was the courts, saying that Uber drivers are not contractees, but Uber employees. And that's going to throw a whole wrench into Uber's business model, at least in California. Um, it's always interesting. I'm in some ways a big fan of these kinds of disruptions. I don't necessarily always see them as good disruptions, and I'm not entirely convinced this is, but it's interesting.
It empowers the user because you can choose a driver who is well reviewed. You can feedback against the driver.
It
The,
doesn't always empower. I mean, I tried using Lyft when I was in San Francisco, and it was an absolutely miserable experience,
really,
really.
in what way?
In the way that drivers would just, decide to bail on me, and I had no way to rate them if they didn't show up. Drivers would claim they couldn't find me, even though I was standing right at the intersection they indicated. It was just a miserable, miserable experience.
There's a good ask me anything or whatever on Reddit, and it's an Uber driver, and he said that's a real problem. That he'll tell people, he'll call them, and say I'm in the silver Mercedes or whatever it is, because that is a problem. They can't find the cab or the Uber car, and the Uber car doesn't know where they are. So that's an actual issue.
Right. No, I'm not saying there aren't real issues, and I'm not saying, there wasn't some legitimacy to it, but it was, it's not always as good as everyone likes to make it out to be.
Did you use a modern version or like an early version of Lyft,
This was when I was in San Francisco last,
which wasn't that long ago?
which was like a month ago.
Yeah. So, okay. All right. Any final thoughts? How's your week?
It sucked.
Okay. Um, the kid got his learner's permit today, and we went driving, and I did not have a heart attack, so that was good. My week was good, and next week will be shitty like Alan's was this week because I have to put paper out, and it'll be chaos and chaos theory in play, to use the Jurassic term, the term popularized by them. Okay, so
Yeah, but of course they didn't bring Malcolm back. They didn't bring all the good characters back.
I thought you didn't see it.
Come on, everyone knows they didn't bring any of the good characters back.
Jeff Goldblum, you mean?
Well, they didn't bring his character back anyway.
Oh, I'll have to watch it. No more spoilers.
You don't want me to tell you that there are dinosaurs in the movie?
Arguably. Okay, so anyway, John Jensen, thanks for hanging out with us on Periscope. And let me do a last check here for any comments on Google Plus. So there's Cy. No witty comments from Cy. Hey, Alan has to go. Thank you all very much for watching. We have 2 programs. Well, hopefully. We've skipped Android twice. Hopefully we'll do it this Monday. And Alan, I have to complain because I sat here for 30 minutes waiting for you before I found out you couldn't do it. So that was boring. You know how ADD I am. That was traumatic. But anyway, hopefully we'll be back Monday with our Android Week. Mondays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, where we discuss all things Android. And then this program is Google Plus Week, where we discuss tech news with a Google focus and other miscellaneous things. Thanks for watching. Until next time, have an epic Google Plus Week.